Hey, what's up, YouTube? Golf Shirt Shooter here. And I wanted to talk to you about what I call next level reloading. You know, whether you've been reloading for 50 years or 50 days, or you're considering getting into the hobby, you may be asking, and we've all have asked at some point, a series of questions that are typical when considering venturing out into this hobby. And some of those questions are, how much, does it cost to reload? How much money do you save? How long does it take? What equipment do I need? How much does the equipment cost? And those are all important questions, right? Um, and I asked those same questions whenever I started or considered getting into reloading. But the other thing I did prior to deciding to start reloading was I I convinced myself of the goals that I had. Why did I want to get into reloading? And there were two primary reasons that I wanted to start reloading. Number one, I wanted the ability to make ammunition at my discretion. When I started reloading, ammunition was tough to find, and it was very, very frustrating. When I go shoot, I like to shoot a lot, and walking into a store and buying, being limited to one box or two box, or not finding any ammunition, kind of like what we're experiencing now, it was very frustrating for me. So having the ability to make my own when I wanted to was a very important reason or objective, I guess you can say, when I decided to get into reloading. The other objective I had was to duplicate factory ammunition. There's a lot of opinions out there about different types of factory ammunition, whether it's Winchester white box or premium federal rounds or whatever. There's a whole slew of rounds, cartridges, and manufacturers out there, and people have different opinions. As far as I'm concerned, it's all good ammunition. When I bought factory ammunition, it didn't matter to me whether I bought Winchester white box or I bought Hornady premiums. My intent was to go shoot and to have a reliable functioning cartridge and to go and enjoy myself on the range. So my goal was to have the ability to duplicate factory ammunition, good quality factory standard ammunition. As you decide on whether or not you want to start reloading, and you watch enough reloading videos, or you talk to people who reload, most of them, if not all of them, and if they don't, they should recommend a reloading manual. There's many out there. Many manufacturers make reloading manuals. They're all good. I'm not biased to any one of them. I have 4 different reloading manuals and they all work fine, but at least get yourself a reloading manual. All the information in here is good information. This is a Hornady manual, and regardless of the bullet profile you choose to reload, if you were to use these recipes in here, it's going to be good. It's going to be a functioning cartridge. It's going to be safe to shoot. It's guaranteed by the manufacturer of the manual. And I will tell you that Hornady has a lot more experience making ammunition than most people who are watching this video out there. So I trust what they have to say. This here's the data for 223 Remington, which I'm going to talk about here in terms of next level reloading. But there's one thing I wanted to point out with any given reloading manual. It has a certain level of deficiency. And what I mean by that is all of this data was tested on a specific firearm. And no matter what cartridge you look up in these reloading manuals, they all have the same deficiency. They're all tested with one specific firearm. And in this case, it was a Remington 700 with a 26-inch barrel and a 1 in 12 twist. Now, why do I consider that a deficiency? Because I have no way of determining if I can duplicate these rounds accurately to the published velocities that they show, because I don't have a Remington 700, nor do I have a rifle with a 26-inch barrel. However, regardless of the rifle I have and the barrel length that I have, again, if you utilize the data in this book, it's going to produce a good quality cartridge. There's no doubt about it, and I am not arguing that. But in terms of what I call next level reloading, again, one of my objectives was to duplicate factory ammunition. And I want to talk to you briefly about how I do that. I do this for pistol, but in this case, I want to talk to you about rifle cartridges. And whenever I started reloading 223 Remington, I chose a specific manufacturer and a specific not cartridge, but bullet profile that I wanted to duplicate. And in this case, I wanted to duplicate Hornady 223 Remington 55 grain full metal jacket bow tails. That's what I load, is 55 grain FMJ BTs. And so I settled on this specific ammunition that I wanted to duplicate. There's no arguing that Hornady makes a very good quality round. They make one of the best rounds in my opinion. I've never had a Hornady fail, whether it's failure feed or eject. They all go boom. So I trust this. I trust this a lot. And to me, this was a good premium factory round that I wanted to attempt to reload myself. So I bought this box. I did not buy this box to go to the range and plink and have fun. I bought this to, well, let's just say I bought it to borrow some data. And when I opened the box up, the first thing I did was I started borrowing data. Some of the things I borrowed were the overall length, the crimp that Hornady uses on their 223s, and then I decided to check their headspace, and I'm going to talk about that more in a minute. And I measured every one of these rounds with those three elements, with the overall length, the crimp, and the headspace. Now, in terms of checking headspace, you got to have a tool for that, and this is a Hornady headspace comparator kit. I ran across this by accident, actually watching a YouTube video, and I was watching a guy use this. And when I started reloading 223, I thought it was actually necessary for me to check this and to set up my resize die. It's not. The only thing that's necessary to to properly set your resize die is a case gauge. And this is a Dillon case gauge, and it has a minimum and maximum length to check your headspace. As long as that case sits in there after being resized and it doesn't sit below the minimum or above the maximum, your resize die is set and it's good to go. But that doesn't tell you what specifically the headspace is set at. So for, again, what I call next level reloading, I bought a comparator kit. Now in the kit, you will get a series of collets, I think they're called, and they're used for various different rifle cartridges. This one here specifically is used for 223. In the kit, you will get this part of the tool. This little guy right here, you have to buy separately. I think that's a jip, but whatever. However, it's not needed or required. It just does make things a little bit easier when checking your headspace if you decide to go this route. But in order to check the headspace, basically what you do is you install the tool, make sure they're flush against your blades and they're even, both the top tool and the bottom. All right, make sure they're flush against the blades, and then you set your you zero out your calipers. All right, and then you take the cartridge, and in this case, this is a Hornady cartridge, factory cartridge, and you slip it in there. And what it's going to do is it's basically going to act like a chamber. It's going to tell you what the headspace is on that cartridge. As you know, rifle cartridges headspace on the shoulder as opposed to pistol, which headspace is on the mouth. And when I checked all 50 rounds, this one here is coming out at 1.4525. And by the way, when you check them, you want to make sure you spin that case so that it's flush on all parts of that shoulder. But this one comes out to 1.452. I'll tell you that when I checked all 50 rounds, they all came out between 1.451 and 1.455. The majority of them around at 1.453. The average of all 50 was right at 1.453. So when I set up my resize die, I did so with the intent of trying to hit 1.453. I initially set it using the case gauge, but then I used my headspace comparator, and as I resized empty brass, or I resized brass, I would check the headspace on them and dial it in to hit 1.453. So in essence, what I was able to do was duplicate Hornady's headspace. And the reason that was important to me was, again, this to me is a premium round. And I don't know of anyone that would argue that. It functions perfectly. So I wanted to make sure all of my cases function perfectly. Again, if you set it using your case gauge, you're going to be fine. However, to me, next level loading is the ability to get this level of quality. Okay, so these are my reloads in here, and as you can see, these are 223s. All right, and I just store them in boxes like this. This was actually a wine box, and I thought it would be good for storing reloaded ammunition, but anyway, that's a different story for a different day. So here's some rounds that I had made. These are 223s, again, full metal jacket bow tails. These are not Hornady bullets. These are Everglade version 2s. And this is all range brass, by the way. But when I check the headspace on the rounds that I made, 1.453, hold on, 1.453, 1.454. If you can't see this, you're just going to have to trust me. 1.454. 1.455. So all of the head spaces, and I can do this all day long, guys, with all of my reloads. I was able to successfully duplicate the headspace that Hornady uses for this particular ammunition. And again, the reason that's important to me is I'm pretty confident that it will function reliably in terms of chambering, in terms of ejecting, just like the Hornadys do. I have no reason to believe otherwise because, well, we have the same headspace. So as you notice, some of these rounds are fired, and after I took after I borrowed all of the data off of these rounds, and I made my reloads, and I ladder loaded up. So earlier I talked about the reloading manual, and I did what you're supposed to do. I chose a powder. I started towards the lower end of the recommended published data, and I ladder loaded up towards the higher end of the published data incrementally. And I made a series of test rounds and reloads, and I took several of the Hornady rounds out there, and I fired these on my chronograph. And in addition to that, I fired my test loads on my chronograph. I wrote all the data down, came back to the house, sat down, crunched the numbers, and based off of the results, I chose a specific powder throw or powder measurement with the powder that I use in these rounds, and I went back out and retested. I chose a specific drop that I thought would duplicate the velocities that I saw in the Hornadys, and I got pretty close. I'm about 25 feet per second off. I'm a little slower than what I was able to test. I will tell you, I got nowhere close to the published data on the box, which Hornady says is 3240 feet per second. I have no idea what rifle they used. I was getting about 2680 on the factory ammo. And I'll tell you guys, the velocities on these rounds were pretty freaking consistent. So this is good ammunition, but so is this. Because my velocities were extremely consistent, and all of them were around 25 to 30 feet per second slower than the Hornady rounds. I can certainly dial it in closer. It's not that important to me. As far as I'm concerned, I was able to successfully duplicate this specific ammunition. I paid $33 a box for this. Going back to one of the questions, how much does it cost to reload? How much do you save when you reload? I don't save anything. If anything, it's cost me more, but I can shoot a heck of a lot more ammo, and I can do it guilt-free. If I shot the same amount of ammo as I do in reloads, if I shot the same amount of this specific ammo as I do in reloads, I would be broke, I would be divorced, and I would be unhappy. And at $33 a box, that's 66 cents a round, guys. That's a lot of money. Obviously, reloading, I don't spend anywhere near that much money. However, I can go to sleep at night knowing that these 223 Remington 55 grain full metal jacket bow tails are exactly the same almost exactly the same as these rounds right here. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm shooting $33 a box quality ammunition that is much more cost effective. And I can go through all these rounds and show you that. But again, look at some videos on chronographs. I'll try to come out with one here shortly. But getting the headspace and duplicating that with Hornady's, duplicating the overall lengths with Hornady's was very important to me in terms of achieving the goal to duplicate factory ammunition. And that is what I call next level reloading. Again, using the manual to make good quality ammunition is perfectly fine. I am not knocking it. I did it for years, guys, and you'll be perfectly happy doing it. But I always wondered, hey, what am I actually doing? You know, what am I achieving? And when I bought a chronograph, I found out real quick, and then I had the idea that, well, you know, I can shoot factory ammunition on that chronograph, and then I can try to duplicate that factory ammo. I don't know if I would recommend duplicating ammo like Buffalo Bore or Underwood. Those types of manufacturers, those types of rounds are built for a specific purpose. But in terms of duplicating what I would consider reasonable, you know, range ammo, something you want to go out and plink, something you want to have fun with, something you can feed through your firearms consistently and not have to, you know, worry about excessive wear and tear on your firearms. Stuff like this is perfectly acceptable, and it's also perfectly achievable in terms of duplicating it. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you. Please leave your feedback. Please give me some comments. Tell me what you think. Please look at chronographs. I highly recommend getting one. If you don't have one, they're great. You know, you can certainly tell where you're at and what you're doing, and you can certainly see what you're getting out of any specific factory ammunition that you care to try to replicate. So I'm open to comments and suggestions and thoughts on this. But yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you, and that's what I consider next level loading, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. Happy reloading.